Thanks for joining us today and welcome. You're listening to the Women's Broadcast Television Network Expert Spotlight Show, and I'm your host, Shay Vaughn. WBTVN is the all-women's internet television station with content that's created by women and for women. And today, joining us on WBTVN is our expert. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Mark Villarreal is a two-time international best-selling author, keynote and motivational speaker, coach, and consultant. He speaks and is an expert on leadership, culture, business development, and strategy. Please help me to welcome him to the show. Mark, it's so great to have you on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor when you say that.
Well, thank you so much. You've just done so much in your life. And one of the things that I know I would like to know, and I know that the audience would too, is that tell me a little bit about growing up and how did you get to where you are today?
Well, actually, growing up, and I just wrote a book that was released earlier this month that's become an international bestseller called Leadership Lessons from Mom. So my mom was a housewife, which she had the privilege back then. I know it's a lot harder today, but I say she was the best leadership coach who chose to be a housewife. So she had that luxury, but and I think all mothers, whether especially now the working ones, they make a big impact. And my mom, it was real important to her that she would instill good character. So the lessons she taught me from adolescence, and the book goes all the way to her death, resonate with who I am as an adult, but it also correlates to how we run businesses, and they're just great lessons. And I think a lot of people relate to it, and they're like, even some women's like, yeah, well, I do that with my kids. I didn't know. I'm like, see, you're teaching them. You're doing a great job. And to understand the impact that you have on what I call the future leaders of tomorrow. So,
you know, it's interesting to see that, you know, core values and how you receive them from your parents or you don't receive them have so much to do with really your own outlook on life and the things that you want to accomplish. Either I didn't get it and I'm going to make sure my kids get this, or I got it and this is good and I want to pass it along. And it's done in a different way.
Well, it's very important. My mom used to tell me all the time, values are what you live by and principles are what you stand on. And so in other words, so she would teach me what values were. And as you form them into principles, that means they're habit, they're automatic. And it was very important to her. You know, even when I suffered, she would keep the discipline because my character was more important to her than my comfort at times. But she'd say, every part of your character is built upon your values. So that's why I'm doing this. And so she would always tell me why, or the lessons. And that's what resonated, because she's like, it's more important to me who you become than maybe sometimes your comfort at the moment, because I talk about rewards or consequences. Another lesson she taught me, I'm going to raise you by rewards or consequences. It should be no surprise. I'd rather reward you every day, but there's going to be consequences for everything that you do as well. And unfortunately, sometimes we'll have to face some consequences and work through that and then get you back on the reward side.
It sounds to me like your mom gave you the basis to become the keynote speaker that you are and to be able to share those values.
Look, I would say she very much did. I can tell stories. You know, first of all, sometimes you ask, what is a keynote speaker? He's a storyteller. And so I would say that my mom just gave me stories that were real. The book was not hard to write because there were lessons in my heart. My wife was like, wow, yeah, and I'm like, no, because I would always tell her stories. She didn't never met my mother,
Okay.
But she'd always say, wow, your mom was so wise. And I'm like, but she made it so simple too. Right. And, that's what was important. And she would like sometimes test me, but then tell me what she was doing and why she was doing it, because she wanted me to understand that it was for my benefit and it was out of love.
Absolutely. And I think that that's a message that we need to give all of our children and, set that example, because if you love them enough, we're coming out of a generation that has been, enabled.
Correct.
Expecting, too much.
Right.
and and we're not helping them. We're making it harder on them to go out and find a job, have the relationships that they want, find the people that they want to bring into their life, because they just feel like they should come and find me. I mean, it's like they're enabled.
I would say exactly. One of the lessons I talk about my mom, I talk about that my mom saw that I was a natural introvert, which most people that know me today would say, what are you talking about? Because of what I do and that. But I still have that tendency. But mom would push me, and she said, I want you to be a part of something. And she would push me into things. She knew where she needed me to go in advance, So, and that's one of the lessons in the book is go out and be a part of something. And because she wanted me to get over that even though my natural reaction might be introverted, and she'd say things like, be of good courage, and the Bible says, she'd tell me the Bible has it 366 times, one for every day of the week, and an extra one to put in your pocket.
I love that.
But, there were certain things, and I always tell a story that as a kid, when you're growing up, you want to tell your parents, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a policeman. And every time you're doing it, sometimes for recognition, or you want that encouragement. We all love encouragement from people, especially our parents. And probably when I was a teenager is where she knew I had matured to a certain level. And she stopped me. She said, if you really want to know what I want you to be, I want you to be a good example. And so whatever you choose, and even when you do something wrong, if you're a good example on how you take the discipline or how you show others, that's what will make me smile down from heaven after I pass.
Oh, and she must be just having the biggest smile on her face.
I hope she does.
Yeah. I'm sure that she does.
Yes.
I know that she does. So, you do a lot of coaching.
Yes.
And doing, inspiring other people. Tell me a little bit about most of the things that you actually end up coaching. There's always, when you have several people, it's kind of like there's still something that keeps coming back and something that you're constantly addressing.
Right. Well, my first book was called Shortcuts Get You Lost, which is a story about my mom, and where I tried to take a shortcut home, and I got lost, and so she was scared, and she told me there's dangers in trying to take a shortcut, because when you get lost, you have to back up to where you started, and you actually cost yourself more time. And she always said, I don't want that bad habit in you. But so I do a lot of coaching on leadership and how to build the foundation in a company that the culture is strong, that everything built upon it, it's long-term success. So because short-term success, you can take those shortcuts, you can even sacrifice your ethics on certain things, but it doesn't build that long-term success or that employee buy-in, I want to work here type. So in fact, I gave a speech on that last week to a group here in San Antonio. I'm in Dallas today. But I also do a lot of coaching on women in leadership or aspiring to be in leadership. And I tell the story because what got me into that, it was over 20 years ago that I was in a business to where I hired, or organically it grew that I had single mothers. So it wasn't like, hey, I'm going to go hire single mothers, but I had 2 or 3. They would refer others, and before I knew it, I had 7, and then I had 9. And they had that I cannot fail attitude. And what can I take home to study? And it was, I say I had the privilege of having them employed because they drove my success. And so a couple of things I always preach. I love servant leadership. I would tell my employees, I work for you. My job is to help drive your success, provide tools and resources and this. But when I do that, I can hold you more accountable. But because, our location, we were part of our franchise organization, we won the most outstanding location of over 260 worldwide.
Wow.
And they made me successful. And so I do mentor a lot of women or aspiring to be leaders, and they have grown. And one is on an executive team of the last company I worked with. And so that's always inspiring as well. But I also sometimes coach organizations on how to open up the diversity in their organization, because sometimes their system doesn't have where they have enough diversity because of how they build what I call their career lattices that help recognize those people that, what are the traits of finding good leaders? Not every manager is a leader. So that's important.
Not.
And so what are the traits you're looking for? And so you could recognize that and have actually a healthier career lattice. So, and that's helped them quite a bit. I think diversity in organization makes for better decisions and more buy-in from all employees, and it just builds a great culture.
Do you think that corporations have improved on their leadership, on management, on all of those things? I always think of corporations, and this is something I read in a book that a good friend of mine actually ended up writing, and he does it in such a way, like, green light, blue, and green, red, and yellow, and it's kind of like corporations are kind of detected as such. In other words, there's a lot of red light, and that's where the employee is just sitting there getting his paycheck, because nobody really cares about his creativity or the good work that he does, and his boss always takes credit for whatever bit that he possibly can.
Right.
That's not a happy environment. That doesn't encourage you to want to stay and to continue to. You don't feel like there's the opportunities there that you'd have in another situation. And then the other one, then it's yellow. It gets a little bit better, but it's still not what it should be. And then the green is really where it's collaborative, where there's an opportunity to share, that there's not fear that you're going to be saying or doing the wrong thing, because they want to help to improve on all of that. So tell me your thoughts.
Well, absolutely right. The last organization I worked for and helped and was an executive member of, we had an environment that we called First Team. And so we wanted to build a strong culture, and we wanted to have the ability to have our input. I think Martin Luther King says that leadership is a molder of consensus. It's not a builder of consensus. There's a difference. You want people's input, but it doesn't mean that all their ideas are going to be put in. But as long as you had input, then you're going to have buy-in. If one person makes a decision and then things start struggling, then that's when you have grumbling. And the stronger organizations, I've worked in an organization where we built a culture that we actually told them, you come give us 110% and we'll do everything to advance your career in our organization, with our corporation, or outside our organization. If you have a dream of owning your own business, tell us. Give us 110%, because we wanted to see their personal dreams and goals as well as their professional, which some people think are taboo. And I'm like, no, if you have a dream of owning your own business. And we created a culture that people wanted to come work for us because of that. And we would lose leaders to our corporation, or they would go to other companies. That was a great stepping stone for them. But it brought in new blood and new innovation. And we never had that lack of people that wanted to come work for us.
Mark, I can see that there is a passion, within you for developing people, to helping them reach their goals in a manner that helps them to achieve and to even surpass, what they might have thought, their goal really was. I can hear it in your voice. I see it in your face and your body and how you say it. That's not an easy thing to keep up, because you only have so much passion in you. But when you feel it like you do, seriously, I can just see that you obviously bring this to all the speaking engagements that you have, all the corporate development programs that you're helping. All of that, everything that you do is it's really coming from the heart and really coming from the passion. And is that Mom's doing?
Yes. I mean, like I said, I give all the credit to my mom and dad. So, she would, I talked about be a part of something, but, one of the other things is that she would talk about, it's not about you. And I tell the story about when I was a teenager, and I was the ride to school, but everyone had to be there. I said, left without you. And you had to go find your own way. And then I had a friend die in high school and I wish I had knew. He wanted to be a better friend, and I just never had the time. And my mom saw how that affected me, and she said, you need to learn that it's not about you in life. And it's about others and how you treat them. And I tell the story in the book about how the next day one of my friends were late, and the other friends were surprised because I went to his house and picked them up. And that was, from that point, learned it's not about me. It's about how you can affect others. And when you do that, you don't have to worry about yourself. And I talk about, that's where I said, as I focus on other success, mine came naturally. And when you're able to, one of the best things is when you coach and you see the excitement in someone and you see them develop and you see them achieve, and then you see them surpass what they can do. In my speech last week, and it was ironic because it was with project managers, people that are certified on how to plan, I talked about roadmaps to success. And we owe that to our leaders and every employee to build them a roadmap to success. And like that, I refer to it like a GPS, where it tells you if I'm driving from the Smoky Mountains to San Antonio, Texas, I have to know what the milestones are to see if I may not be in San Antonio yet, but I know if I hit Nashville in 3 hours, I'm on the right path.
Yes.
Yeah, talked about detours do happen, but that's why GPS shows you how to get around it and then how to get right back on that roadmap.
Right.
And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say all those things are, so important. And the thing about it also is that it's not about yourself, but what it is about serving others.
Absolutely.
And, and I know that you talk about that in serving others, and you've dedicated your life to making sure that the message that you're getting across is serving other people.
Well, and that's important. And it's one thing that when I teach future leaders that, because look, we all like recognition, and that's a human trait.
Of course.
But the biggest thing I teach them is, I don't think we all realize how much human nature inside people, they have an innate hunger that they want to be led, whether they know it or not. When they find someone that's leading them, they will follow. And especially if it's someone on the right values of ethics, integrity, they take a bullet for you almost.
Yeah.
And so it's the biggest thing that I teach, because the rewards is watching them grow. And then once again, I said, you don't have to worry about your success. It comes naturally. If everything's aligned the way it's supposed to be, everyone else's goals should be built into yours anyway, because they should be doing the things that help drive the company, your organization, or your individual team success anyway.
Well, I agree with everything that you're saying, and certainly leadership development is really being hungry for continued growth.
Correct.
You never stand still, that you have to, either you have to move forward in one way or another and compel that. And we never stop learning. There's always different things that come into our life, and even as coaches and teachers and leadership and all of those things, I just know from experience myself that so many times I learn something every time I'm helping somebody else.
Right. Well, I think that's the big thing. I always, when I talk about values, I think, it's common for people to have the same set 5 values, but I put humility first. And I think my mom taught me another lesson, that humility is a strength, not a weakness.
Yes, it is.
And I say that, hey, look, I lead with humility for several reasons. One, because I want to learn from you as well.
Exactly.
2, because if for some reason, because I'm human, if I mess up on a value, I want to have the humility to recognize it and say, hey, I messed up on a value. Because my mom used to tell me, talk from the heart and show them that you're genuine. And those are because I told her a story about when people were becoming managers, they changed. And she said, yeah, it was different. And I said, well, I guess they have to. And she said, no, great leaders will talk from the heart. They'll be genuine, and they'll show people who they are. And as you do that, sometimes you have to make hard decisions. Sometimes I've been with companies where we went through a layoff. They understand. They understand that there's business as well, but they understand who you are as a person.
Right. I'm thinking about Mom's Mind. It's a long story, but I'm not going to tell any because this is your interview. But I do want to say this. My mom ended up coming and visiting me, and she stayed for 17 years. And she was my best friend, and she's taught me so much. And I just know that my mom and your mom are talking to each other and looking down on this, and just with big smiles.
Absolutely.
So, and I just want to tell you, I'm so grateful that you've come into my life today and the audience's life, because there's so much value in that. If you want to leave with some kind of, words of wisdom, what would that be? We got so many of them, we've already talked about them, but what would you say to that?
Well, I mean, I could go into, the different lessons my mom taught me, but one of the things, and it's one of the stories in my book, that I talk about teaching people to always have big dreams. And sometimes it's easy when you're a kid to have big dreams, but then you tend to lose them. And maybe you put parameters around yourself. And I grew up in California where I was a Dodger fan and a Lakers fan, but somehow I became a Len Dawson fan, was a Kansas City Chiefs, and a Carl Yastrzemski fan, which was Boston Red Sox. Yeah. And I said, my mom took interest in who my heroes were. And maybe she led me to enjoy those ones because they were known as people with good character, where the cities loved them and did a lot for their community. And I thank her for that, and we teach that in our leadership, that we teach organizations, and we even have an exercise to ask your employees, who's your hero? And then write down the attributes of who your hero is.
Yes.
And model those attributes, and you actually become your hero. And it really brightens their day when you do that. You'd be surprised when you take that kind of a personal interest.
I love that, because it makes me think about, I'm the girl that gets up every day and goes to the window and says, what a beautiful day. And it doesn't make any difference whether it's raining out or snowing out or whatever, because
right.
I know that it's my choices that are going to make that, the difference in that day. And I certainly don't want to turn on the TV, and I certainly don't want to pick up the phone, because that's when the negativity
right.
starts to come in.
Right.
But yeah, it's, we have that right to make that day whatever we choose to make it. And the choices that we make every day of our life is really what our destiny is.
Absolutely.
So, I just want to, where can everyone reach you? I definitely want to ask that question to make sure everybody knows how to get in touch with you.
Well, I have two URLs that go to the same website, so it makes it easy. MarkVillarreal.com, or you can type in Mr., spell it out, V, as V as in Victor, online.com, because people used to call me Mr. V. And so that's my website. You can email me at mvillarreal@mrvonline.com as well.
And that last name is spelled Villareal.
Correct.
Just for the people that's listening. So I want to thank you seriously from the bottom of my heart. And I feel that way with everybody that God brings into my life that I get the opportunity to interview. And I'm so grateful for that. But I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being on the show today. And I want to thank our listeners for being on the show. If you want to know a little bit more about WBTVN, please go to WBTVN.tv. And you'll be seeing this on there very soon. So until the next time, everyone, have a great day. And thank you for joining us. Thank you, Mark, so much.
Thank you. Take care.